The word immanence is usually used to balance the word transcendent. Transcendent in this context means that it's consciousness is beyond, above, or prior to experience. So transcendent suggests that consciousness is independent of experience. It transcends. It is beyond experience. In fact, it's more accurate to say it is prior to experience, not beyond experience. But it is prior to and independent of experience. So in this, and this is usually the first step we take, is to see the transcendent nature of consciousness, to separate consciousness out from the objects of experience. I am not my thoughts, I am that which is aware of my thoughts. I am not my feelings and sensations, I am that which is aware of my feelings and sensations, etc.
And Rupert, that would then equate with neti-neti.
Yes, neti-neti, meaning I am not this, I am not that, is the traditional way to establish the transcendent or independent nature of consciousness, the primacy and independence of consciousness. And that's usually the first step in the teaching, to separate consciousness out from objective experience. And then the second step, having established the presence and the primacy and the independence of consciousness, the second step is to recognize the nature of consciousness, not just the presence and the primacy of consciousness, but the nature of consciousness, its ever-present, unlimited nature. And then the third step, we go back to the objects from which we have separated ourselves, and we close the apparent distinction, because it's only an apparent distinction between consciousness and its objects. And we see that consciousness is doesn't just lie behind experience, but it pervades all experience. And that's what the word immanence means, that it is present within experience, not just present as the witnessing background of experience. So it's like saying to one who is lost in the drama of a movie, it's like saying, but see that the screen is behind the movie. Now that is a legitimate statement to one who is lost in the movie. It's not completely true. The screen is not behind the movie as if the movie were one thing and the screen another, but it does establish that the screen is independent of and prior to the movie. So once we have seen that the screen is prior to the movie, we can then look again more closely and see that the screen is not just prior to the movie, but it actually pervades the entire movie. And later on we see that it is all there is to the movie. So the transcendent means to establish the primacy and the independence of consciousness. Immanence suggests that it is immediately present within, in the midst of all experience.
So it's never apart from anything.
Yes. And that's very easy to check in your experience. Can you separate anything that you have ever experienced from the knowing of it? Even your experience of the moon, which seems to be at an almost infinite distance from yourself, cannot be separated from the knowing of it. Your experience of the moon cannot be separated from the knowing of it. In fact, all your experience is pervaded by the knowing of it, by the consciousness of it. There is no part of experience which is not saturated with knowing. In fact, even that is not quite true, because it suggests that experience is one thing and that it is pervaded by knowing or consciousness. It's like saying that the movie is one thing and it is pervaded by the screen. All there is to experience is the knowing of it. In fact, not even the knowing of it. We never find the it. We never find something independent of knowing. Knowing is the only substance present in experience. So even to say that consciousness is immanent, is all these formulations, they come close, but none of them are quite right. They are all true relative to the belief that precedes them. But once each of our statements has done its job of uprooting the belief that precedes it, we should then abandon our new formulation and replace it with a finer statement that uproots the previous statement until we go on and eventually we fall silent. In this moment, are you experiencing anything other than the knowing of your experience?
No.
Have you ever experienced anything other than the knowing of experience?
No.
Could you ever experience anything other than the knowing of experience? No. So knowing or experiencing is all that you ever know, yes? So to begin with, it's legitimate to conceive this knowing or awareness in the background of awareness, in the background of experience. We speak of the witnessing presence of awareness, to which the objects, thoughts, sensations and perceptions appear. So we make this distinction between the subject, the witness, the knower, awareness, and the object, the witnessed, or the known. Yes? And that's a legitimate step to take because it draws attention to the presence of awareness. But at some point we have to collapse this distinction between the subject and the object, between the knower and the known. Because after all, we are speaking of non-duality here. There is not room in non-duality for a subject and an object. So it's not always necessary when you're in the midst of your daily activities to withdraw your attention from the object in order to go back to your true nature. Sometimes circumstances don't permit that. Your attention is required on the object. So then it's in exactly the same way that we don't need to turn the movie off in order to see the screen. So we don't have to turn our attention away from objective experience in order to know this knowing. After all, you have just acknowledged that all you know of these so-called objects is the knowing of them. So the screen of awareness is not just shining in the background of all experience. We cannot even say that it pervades the foreground of experience. It is all there is to experience. To begin with, we say the screen is in the background of the movie. Then we say the screen pervades the movie. And then we realize, no, there is no such thing as a movie that is pervaded by the screen. All there is to the movie is the screen. All there is to experience is the knowing of it. So you don't have to separate yourself out from experience, although that is a legitimate first step. That returning to yourself, that returning of the attention to the source of attention, rather than directing it towards the object, is a legitimate and necessary step. But at some point we have to go back to objective experience without losing this understanding. In other words, although we may first find ourselves or recognize ourselves in the background of experience, in time we have to find ourselves in the midst of experience. Is there any part of your experience that is not pervaded by the knowing of it? That knowing is yourself. When you were a 5-year-old girl, was there any part of your experience that was not pervaded by the knowing of it? And was the knowing with which your 5-year-old experience was pervaded any different from the knowing with which your current experience is pervaded? So although your 5-year-old experience was very different from your current experience, the stuff out of which both experiences were made is the same, just like all dramas are made out of the same screen, all movies are made out of the same screen. So it is this knowing or this consciousness that is coloring itself in the form of all experience, but it never ceases being itself. So the world is like a hologram in awareness or in consciousness, made of, appearing in consciousness, known by consciousness, made of consciousness.
I had a question about the I am. I worry at times that I'm creating a very subtle, imaginative presence of awareness within my experience that sort of lurks in the background and is almost, ghost-like, very ephemeral. When I try to find the sense of presence, I worry that I'm not there and I'm creating this phantom. So I was curious about your interpretation, and I feel like it seduces me because I feel like I endow it with a lot of qualities of awareness or God, and when I tap into that, I'm like, I'm in the I am, and I'm in the sense of presence, and it fills me with fluffy feelings, but I worry about creating the entity instead of actually being the knowing.
When you speak of being in the I am, you suggest that the I am is some kind of a state that you enter from time to time. And if that is the case, then you're right. The I am is a state that your mind has manufactured.
Right. And even this, it's tricky because the state feels like the stripping away of experience. It seems like the space between thoughts, and there seems to be the presence of I am, and it seems to grow when there's no object of my attention.
But the I am, our essential being, is equally present during our thoughts as it is between our thoughts. It's just that, to begin with, our thoughts distract our attention away from our essential being, and therefore, to begin with, we access it in between our thoughts or in the absence of thoughts, in exactly the same way that The screen is equally present during the movie and in between movies, but to begin with, our attention is so distracted by the content of the movie that we first have to turn the movie off in order to see the screen.
Right. So I'm not sure that when I'm turning the movie off, am I actually creating another, am I switching the channel or turning it off, I guess would be my question. I worry that I feel like, oh, there's the sense of presence, but I wonder, because I experience it as a sort of state, it seems like it can't be it.
Yes, if it's some kind of state that seems to start at some point and end at another point, then it is a state. So don't worry about whether the movie is playing or not. Don't worry about whether your thoughts are appearing or not.
While thoughts are appearing, and I try the wording here, but I guess I locate the sense of presence, if that's appropriate to say.
Don't try to locate the sense of presence. If you can locate the sense of presence, then it's not presence.
Right, got it.
Because presence is that in which everything is located, but it is not itself located.
Is it experienceable?
It's experienceable, but it's not experienceable as an objective experience in the same way that thoughts, sensations, and perceptions are experienced.
Right.
Our essential nature is made out of knowing or being aware. And therefore its nature is to be aware. It cannot not be aware, just as the sun cannot cease shining. But the sun cannot shine on itself. Awareness cannot know itself as an object. So it's not experienceable in the same way that you are experiencing the sight of this room or the sound of my voice. So if you're looking for it as any kind of objective experience, then you'll never find it. At best, you'll find a manufactured state, a peaceful state of mind, which will mimic the presence of awareness.
Right. I'm looking for it within the movie.
If you're looking for it at all, you're looking in the wrong direction.
I guess I don't know whether I've manifested a sense of presence or if it's actually the screen that I'm experiencing.
Are you in any doubt about your own being now?
I guess my pause would probably imply I'm a little doubtful, but I would say no. I know that I am. I know that I am here, present now.
Yes. Are you in any doubt about the presence of yourself now?
No.
Is the presence of yourself something that comes and goes in your experience?
No.
Is the presence of yourself something that ever appears as an object in your experience?
No.
Yes, so your essential being is never a state, never an experience that comes and goes. You are, quite rightly, not in any doubt about that. You have no doubt about the presence of your own being. It's true, if I were to ask you now, where is your being located now? What would you say?
Here.
And tell us more about the place called here.
Now, here.
But is it not, in your experience, is it not always now and here?
Yes.
Have you ever, or indeed have any of you ever had an experience that was not both now and here? No. So there are 140 experiences of here in this moment, yes? Now, are there 140 different locations of the place called here? Well, where exactly is here? Is here a particular place in space? No, because it's always here for each of us. Here is not, just as now is not a moment in time. So here is not a place in space. It is the placeless place of consciousness. And that's why if you look for the place at which your own being is present, you say, first of all, that place is called here. But if I ask you more about the place called here, you can't describe it. You can't find your own being located somewhere.
It's not a perception, sensation, or thought. And it is an experience? Is that true?
It's not an experience. When you say an experience, you suggest a particular experience as opposed to numerous other experiences, like a thought. The thought about dinner is an experience. A toothache is an experience. The sound of my voice is an experience. The knowing of our own being is not an experience. It is the background of all experience. In fact, it's not just the background of all experience, it pervades all experience. There is no part of experience where we are not present. Is there any part of your experience where you are not present?
No. Definitely not.
Even if you were to look at the moon at night, at a distance, at an apparent distance from yourself, is there any part of that perception that is not pervaded by yourself?
No.
No, you pervade every part of your experience. Your experience appears in you, but you are not contained in experience.
I guess the sense of presence, the sense of I am, which permeates all experience, can self-illuminate, right?
Can.
Self-illuminate, like the sun?
It's not that it can self-illuminate, it is self-illuminating. It's not that the sun can illuminate itself, the sun does illuminate itself. So awareness, our essential self is made out of awareness. And awareness has no off and on switch.
Right.
It knows itself just by being itself. But it doesn't know itself in subject-object relationship. That is why, when I ask you if you know the experience I am, you say yes. You know your own being. You know that I am. But if I ask you to say anything about that experience, you find it very difficult. Because you know I am, but you can't find anything objective to qualify that I am, and therefore find it very difficult to say anything about it.
Right. And I guess that, especially in books and teachings, and just stay with the I am. So I guess there's a goal set up of wanting to stay with the I am, and I feel I want to go to it, I guess. I want to stay with the I am, and you can ask me, do you know that I am? And I say yes, and then there's this sort of, I guess, resonance, or like, I am.
When you say, I want to stay with the I am,
right.
Tell us about the first I.
Well, he doesn't exist.
The I that wants to go to or stay with the I am is already the I am.
Right.
You are like a current in the ocean in search of water.
Right.
You are trying to go towards your true nature.
Right.
Your true nature is always in the opposite direction from whichever direction you are going towards. If you turn round, it's behind you. If you turn round, it's behind you. If you turn round again, it's still behind you.
So then when you say, stay with the I am, or I forget
I shouldn't say stay with the I am, because that subtly implies the possibility of leaving and returning. So that is just a concession.
We're recognizing.
Be knowingly.
Yes.
You are that already, but you have allowed thoughts and feelings to obscure your knowledge of yourself. So be knowingly the presence of awareness that shines in your mind as the knowledge I am, or I am aware. Don't become that. You cannot go towards that.
Right. You can recognize
If I were to say to you, Will, stand up now
and take a step towards myself.
Take a step towards yourself. You've heard me say it a dozen times. What would you do? It's an absurd question. You are trying to take a step towards yourself.
Well, if you say be knowingly, it implies
be
doing something, right? So what do I do?
If anything, you cease doing something.
Okay.
And what do I cease doing? You cease mistaking yourself for a cluster of thoughts and feelings.
Right. Okay, that makes really good sense. Because I already am. So it is in that sense that I say it's not something you have to do, it's something you have to cease doing. Cease mistaking the screen of awareness for the landscape of thoughts and feelings that appears on it. You understand that in this analogy, awareness is like the screen that is watching the movie appearing on it. Right.
Instead of the landscape of thoughts and feelings is like a movie that is playing on you awareness. And you awareness have become seduced by thoughts, feelings, sensations and perceptions, and you seem to have ceased knowing yourself in favor of objective experience. So I'm suggesting relax the focus of your attention from thoughts, sensations and perceptions and allow your attention to come back to yourself. Actually, your attention never really leaves yourself, so it's just...
right, it's the illusion of separation.
Yes. Just be knowingly the presence of awareness, or be aware of the experience of being aware. Or be aware of I am. These are all the same instruction, which is just saying to awareness, go back to yourself, come back to yourself. Stop giving your attention exclusively to something other than yourself, something that is not essential to yourself. Give your attention to yourself. Come back to rest in yourself. So feel that it is more a coming back to rest in yourself rather than going towards something. You are already the self for which you are in search.
With the pincers of truth, I have plucked from the dark corners of my heart the thorn of many judgments. I sit in my own splendor. Wealth or pleasure, duty or discrimination, duality or non-duality, What are they to me? What is yesterday, tomorrow, or today? What is space or eternity? I sit in my own radiance. What is the self or the not self? What is thinking or not thinking? What is good or evil? I sit in my own splendor. I sit in my own radiance, and I have no fear. Waking, dreaming, sleeping, what are they to me? Or even ecstasy? What is far or near, outside or inside, gross or subtle? I sit in my own splendor. Dissolving the mind or the highest meditation, the world and all its works, life or death, what are they to me? I sit in my own radiance. Why talk of wisdom, the three ends of life, or oneness? Why talk of these? Now I live inside my heart.